All right, have a seat up on a lift. Cross your legs in the center of your shins, feet beneath your knees. And let's allow the swirling thoughts to find a home in the back bottom part of our brains. It's not that we seek to ignore what's happening out in the world. There are crazy things happening. Of course, crazy things are always happening. It's just that now it's a little closer to home. So it's not that we ignore them. And we need to maintain our own personal inner strength so that we can do what's needed in the world. And if we don't do this practice, it's easy to get caught up on the train and the thoughts that everybody else wants you to think. And then it makes it difficult to show up and create the positive change that we believe in. So this is a practice of connecting to ourselves, which by definition connects us to each and every other person. Gives us the inner strength. As Thich Nhat Hanh says, there is no path to peace. Peace is the path. So we have to fight it within us first so that we can take it outside with us and do the work that's necessary. The outer world will be there when we are done with today's practice. So for this next time together, can you simply be here? And when you do leave, keep this in mind. I remember people would often say, I'm going back to the real world now. And what I want you to think about, in case I forget to say it at the end, is you are now entering the real world. And when we leave this class, may you take this real world into the world out there. So let's journey into the real world. Bring your palms together with your thumbs at your chest. Touch your palms evenly left to right, right to left. Close your eyelids from top to bottom and rest your eyes into your cheekbones. Gaze gently at your heart, the seat of your heart, the seat of your soul. Find the even balance of your sit bones. Lengthen through the inner thighs, from the lower abdomen to the inner knees, from the inner knees to the lower abdomen. Find a lengthening there. After each instruction, then you take an action. After each action, observe the results of that action. Reflect on the results of that action. As you lengthen the inner thighs, the inner groins, let the flesh of the inner thighs descend. And at the same time, draw from the outer knees to the outer hips and compact the hips together. Maintain this sturdy base and lengthen through the side ribs from your hips through your armpits. The front bottom ribs moving towards the back body. The back bottom ribs moving towards the front body. And as you lengthen through the side ribs, allow the shoulder bones to move down and away from the sides of your neck. Again, palms touching evenly left to right, right to left. Let all the facial features release. Go inward. Simply you and the breath that is breathing you. And let's chant the syllable Om 3 times together. Exhaling completely. Deep inhalation. Om. 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 Lifting your sternum towards the ceiling, lower your chin towards your heart. Release your hands onto your thighs with your palms up. With your eyes closed, raise your head. From the back of your head, gently let your eyelids open. All right, let's start off lying back. Have a strap nearby. You don't need the strap right now, but have it within your arm's reach. So just have it right next to you. Take your feet together, interlock your thumbs, and extend your arms overhead. When your feet are together, your heels are together, your toes are together, toes point straight up at the ceiling, the bottoms of your feet on one straight line. Now, as you lie back like this, you will notice that your front bottom ribs punch up towards the ceiling. Take the front bottom ribs towards the back body, towards the floor. George, so it's this one here with the thumbs and not the fingers, but the thumbs interlocked and then extending out. That's the one. You want to get those arms as straight as they're able to today. Please don't jam the knees down, but do press the thigh bones down. Your heels do not come up, so you can press your heels down first. If your heels begin to come up, you know you're pressing your knees down. So press the heels down, toes remain together, and then press the thigh bones down. The heels should not even feel like they're coming up in the teeniest amount. Lengthen from the inner thighs through the inner knees, through the inner heels. The flesh of the inner thighs descend and draw from the outer knees to the outer hips. Compact the hips together. Maintain that work of the legs as you lengthen through the side ribs. And then open your armpits and extend. Watch those ribs coming up as you lengthen through the side ribs. Keep the front bottom ribs towards the back body. The abdomen descends towards the spine and draws underneath the front bottom ribs. Opening up the armpits, extend armpit to elbow, elbow to wrist, right through the fingertips. And as you extend through those inner arms, draw from the outer elbows to the shoulders. So the work of the legs and the arms are similar. There's an extension through the inner legs and inner arms. There's a drawing from the outer knees to the outer hips. The fingers are a part of the pose. Notice the breath as the breath breathes you while you're in this posture. Soft face, soft jaw. And release and relax. Take your arms up by your sides, palms up. Let your arms go. Let your legs go. Breathe into your shoulders and breathe into your hips. Complete letting go now. So complete letting go. And this letting go is as important as the work. And then interlock your thumbs the opposite way overhead. So whichever one thumb was on top, it's the hardest part of the pose. You have to switch, put the other thumb on top, feet together, heels together, toes together. So the balls of the toes are touching. Maybe the toes themselves touch. You know, we say toes together, but it's the balls of the toes touch. And depending how far you can spread your toes apart, and that's unique and different for each person, maybe the toes touch. But certainly the balls of the toes touching. Press the heels down, and then press the thighs down, the thigh bones pressing. Lengthen from the inner thighs through the inner knees, through the inner heels. The flesh of the inner thighs descend. And draw from the outer knees to the outer hips. Maintain that. There's a tendency, okay, we're done with the legs, let's move on. Maintain the legs, spread the awareness, and extend through your side ribs, equally on the two sides. So notice which side you begin to lengthen first. And can you find an evenness from the hips, through the waist, through each set of ribs? Can you do it evenly on the two sides? So from the hips to the first set of ribs, from the first set of ribs to the second set of ribs, from the second to the third, and on, paying attention, spreading the awareness to both sides of the body. Of course, the front bottom ribs moving towards the back body, the abdomen descends towards the spine and draws underneath the bottom ribs. And then continuing through that lengthening, the legs are still working. Extend through the armpits, through the arms, through the fingertips, and then drawing from the outer elbows to the shoulders. Observe. And release and relax. Arms up by your sides, palms up, let your legs go. Breathe into your shoulders, breathe into your hips. Breathe, yeah, just take the arms up by the sides, George. Breathe into your shoulders, breathe into your hips. That's it. Bend your legs, place your feet on the floor, take hold of your strap. Bend your right leg into your chest, put the strap around your foot where the heel meets the arch, straighten your leg. No death grips on the strap, please. No death grips on the strap. Soften your hands, soften your shoulders. Now again, please don't jam the knee itself back. It is a straight leg. But press the thigh bone back. Where the thigh meets the hip, move that back. As you move the thigh back, move the outer hip away from your shoulder. So the right outer hip is moving away from your shoulder. Kneecap points straight. Good job. Right, so for most of us, that means we have to turn the thigh in slightly, but some of us then overdo it. We turn the thigh all the way in and then the knees pointed inward. The kneecap points straight ahead. So adjust your thigh so that the knee points straight and then press the thigh bone back. Take the outer hip with it. And even the top of the buttock begins to move away from the waist. All right, that's why this can be so good for the lower back. Eyes are soft, face is soft. Switch legs. Bend your right leg, left leg up in the strap. The strap goes where the heel meets the arch today. Ensure that if your leg is straight, that heel is directly above the hip. Soften the hands and shoulders. And where the thigh meets the hip, press the thigh back. As you press the thigh back, take the outer left hip away from your thigh. Away from your shoulder. And as you press the thigh back, the outer hip back, the top of the buttock goes with it. The top of the buttock moves away from your waist. Soft face, soft jaw, soft shoulders. So the upper arms still turn outward to release the shoulders. The outer shoulder bones move down. Not the upper arms, the outer shoulder bones. Switch legs. Right leg up, left leg bent. Heel above your hip. Soft hands, soft shoulders. Press the thigh bone back. Again, where the thigh meets the hip. Don't just jam the knee back, especially those of you that have knee issues. Please be careful for that. So the thigh bone presses back. The hip goes with it, the outer right hip. The top of the buttock moves away from the waist. Now lengthen from the inner thigh, through the inner knee, through the inner ankle, through the ball of the big toe. At the same time, from the upper inner thigh, draw back towards the lower abdomen. That whole inner leg lengthening. And then draw from the outer knee to the outer hip. So the inner leg lengthens, stretches, the outer leg contracts. As you draw from the right outer knee to the outer hip, press the right thigh bone back. Take the outer right hip away from your shoulder. The right buttock does move towards the floor, presses towards the floor. And as that right buttock presses towards the floor, as the thigh moves back, the top of the buttock moves away from the waist. All the time, the hands, shoulders, face, all soft. Bend your legs, switch legs. Left leg straight. The heel above the hip. Soften your hands and shoulders. Press the thigh bone back, where the thigh meets the hip. As you press the thigh bone back, take the outer left hip away from your shoulder. The top of the buttocks moving away from your waist. And lengthen the inner thigh, from the inner thigh, through the inner knee, through the inner ankle, through the ball of the big toe. At the same time, from the upper inner thigh back towards the abdomen, lengthening in both directions. As you lengthen the inner leg, draw from the outer knee to the outer hip. So that action of the outer knee to the outer hip helps draw the femur bone, the big thigh bone, into the hip socket. As you draw the outer knee to the outer hip, still pressing the thigh back, take the outer hip away from your shoulder. The left buttock presses down towards the floor, right? So as if the bone, the femur bone, is moving into the hip socket and is pressing the hip down into the floor. And at the same time, the top of the buttock moves away from the waist. Thigh back, hip back, top of the buttocks back. Soft hands, soft shoulders, soft face. Bend your legs, switch legs. Right leg up, left leg bent. Press the thigh back. Take the outer right hip away from your shoulder. Press the thigh back, the outer hip back, the top of the buttock also moving back. Lengthen the inner thigh through the inner knee, through the inner ankle, push through the ball of the big toe. The little toe does move back towards you. As you extend through the inner leg, that upper inner thigh also draws back towards the lower abdomen. As you lengthen the inner leg, draw from the outer knee to the outer hip. As you draw the outer knee to the outer hip, draw that right buttock down. Keep pressing the right thigh back, the outer hip, moving away from your shoulder. Now listen, when you go to straighten the left leg, that right hip is going to want to move towards your shoulder and your right foot is going to want to move away from your face. Resist that. Keep the right hip where it is. Keep the right foot where it is. Drag your left foot on the floor and straighten your left leg. I should say drag your left heel on the floor is a better instruction. So drag with that bent leg, drag the heel on the floor and straighten the leg. So now 2 straight legs. 2 straight legs. Lengthen both inner legs. So the left leg, the leg you just straightened, the lower leg now mirrors the upper leg. Lengthen the inner leg. Draw from the outer knees to the outer hips. Of course, when we lengthen the inner leg in both directions, so out through the foot, but also from the tops of the thighs back towards the abdomen. Soften the hands and shoulders, please. And as you draw lengthen the inner legs, draw the outer knees to the outer hips. As you draw the outer knees to the outer hips, that right outer hip, the top leg still moving away from your shoulder. And compacting the hips together. Soft shoulders. Imagine this is your favorite pose in the world. Switch legs. Left leg up, right leg bent. Press the thigh back, where the thigh meets the hip. Take the outer hip away from your shoulder. No death grips, please. Soft hands, soft shoulders. So thigh back, outer hip back, top of the buttocks, moving away from your waist. Please don't jam the knee back. It is a straight leg. I'm not saying bend the leg, but I'm also not saying jam your knee back. I've seen too many people over the years overdo that action. So as you're pressing the thigh back, the hip back, the top of the buttocks moving back, lengthen the inner thigh, the inner leg, from the inner thigh through the inner knee, through the inner ankle, through the ball of the big toe. Soften your face, shoulders. From the upper inner thigh, draw back towards the lower abdomen. So you're lengthening out in both directions. As you lengthen the inner leg, please soften your shoulders. As you lengthen the inner leg, draw from the outer knee to the outer hip. As you draw the outer knee to the outer hip, press the left buttock down into the floor. Left outer hip still moving away from your shoulder. Now again, maintain the hip and foot of that straight leg where it is. Drag the lower leg, the right leg on the floor. Drag the heel and straighten the leg. 2 straight legs now. Lengthen both inner thighs. So out through the inner legs, also from the upper inner thighs back towards the abdomen. Draw from the outer knees to the outer hips. Soften your shoulders, please. Outer knees to the outer hips. That left outer hip still moving away from your shoulder. Legs working the same, even though they're in different directions. Now imagining this is your favorite pose. Take your right leg into the strap to meet your left leg. So both legs straight up towards the ceiling in the strap. Urdhva Prasarita Padasana, 90 degrees. Soft hands, soft shoulders. Heels above your hips. Lower back pressing into the floor. Iron your abdomen to your spine. So Olivia, if it's accessible, take your heels just a little bit away from your face. That's it. Abdomen down towards your spine. Soften your shoulders, please. Abdomen down towards the spine, lower back down towards the floor. Abdomen down towards the spine, lower back towards the floor. Lengthen through the legs. And bend your legs, place your feet on the floor, put the strap to the side. Interlock your thumbs overhead, bend your legs into your chest. So you're lying back still. Thumbs interlocked overhead. That's it, Carla. Bend your legs into your chest. Flex your toes. The flexing of the toes begins the gripping of the abdomen. Now iron your abdomen to your spine, iron the lower back to the floor, and straighten your legs towards the ceiling. Extend through the arms, through the legs. Keep the lower back pressing down onto the floor. So the inner legs are lengthened and the outer legs contracting, helping press that lower back to the floor. But really this is for the abdomen. So iron your abdomen to the spine, iron your lower back to the floor. Straighten the legs now, Carla. That's it. Now bend your legs into your chest. Take a breath here. Keep the legs bent into your chest. Take a breath. Flex the toes. Extend through the arms. Iron your abdomen to your spine. Iron your lower back to the floor. And straighten your legs towards the ceiling. Extend through the arms and through the legs. Abdomen down, lower back down. And if you need the strap, by the way, take a strap. So George, just take hold of that strap again. Totally fine. This is a lot of work on the abdomen. So if going strapless isn't working, use the strap. That's fine. Yeah, there you go. Soften your shoulders though. If you're using the strap, please soften your shoulders. Soften your hands. Now, if you're using the strap, you stay at 90 degrees here. Everybody else, you're at 90 degrees, go to 60 degrees. So take your legs down slightly. Abdomen down, lower back down. Abdomen down, lower back down. Lengthen through the legs, lengthen through the arms. That's it, Carla. Yeah. I know, crazy stuff today. Who knew? I didn't plan on this. Sometimes you got to do what you follow the messages that are sent to you. Back up to 90. Abdomen down, lower back down. And bend your legs into your chest. Take your feet on the floor. Release and relax. And everyone, straps to the sides. Straighten your legs on the floor. Interlock your thumbs the opposite way you just did. Let's lengthen the whole body one last time. So feet together. Legs are straight on the floor. Legs straight on the floor, Carla. Heels together, toes point straight up at the ceiling. So we're back to where we started. I believe this was the first pose we did. Remember, even though the thighs do press down, not the knees. So you have to press the heels down first, then the thighs. The heels don't move up at all. Lengthen through the inner legs, lengthen through the inner arms. Draw the outer knees to the outer hips, draw the outer elbows to the shoulders. And as you do, find that lengthening through the side ribs. And then maintaining this, let the breath breathe you. Become the observer, the witnesser. And release and relax. Arms up by your sides, palms up, let your legs go. Let your arms go. Breathe into your shoulders, breathe into your hips. Bend your legs, roll to the side, come up. Everybody needs a chair. So those in the room, go get a chair, but give yourself ample space between each other. Be considerate of everybody. And just lay the chair out on your mat. I guess you're not laying it out. Place the chair down on your mat. Oh, the English language. It can be either direction, Joe. It's not as important here. We'll start in downward facing dog. Hands on the chair, walk your feet back. So your legs should be nice and awake. Wide legs, George. So again, we're not jamming the knees back here. We are pressing the thighs back. We are still lengthening the inner thigh. So there's a lifting from the inner knees to the lower abdomen. There's a lifting from the outer knees to the outer hips. The front bottom ribs still drawing towards the back body, even here. And as you press the thighs back, press the hips back, the hands pressing evenly, lengthen through those side ribs. And then walk your feet forward, take your hands on your hips, extend the chest forward, come up into Tadasana, and take your feet together into Tadasana. Parsvottanasana, side forward bend. So you're going to have your hands on the chair still, the right foot forward, left leg back. Okay, so this is what you're setting up. But to be clear, you don't want to be too forward because then your shoulders are more over your wrists. You want to move back enough so that there's an elongation of the whole torso, and the arms are extended forward. The armpits are nice and open. Front heel in line with your back arch. If you if you want, Joe, you can grab one of the slanted planks for your back heel. So see if you can move both legs back, Carla, so that you're a little further back, so there's more space in your armpits. That's it. Yeah, good. Does that feel okay? Okay. And see if you can get the heel down onto it. That's it, Joe. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips, especially that front leg. Draw the outer knee to the outer hip and use that action because that hip is coming forward. Use that action to press the thigh back. But also lengthen the inner groins from the inner knees to the lower abdomen. And even though the hips compact together, see if you can spread the tops of the thighs away from each other. The tops of the thighs actually move away from me, inner thighs, excuse me. So the outer hips compact together and the top of the inner thighs spread away from each other. So outer legs towards each other, outer hips towards each other, inner legs, upper inner thighs, where they kind of meet right at the top, they spread. But if you just focus on that, then the outer hips will move away from each other. So can you use your awareness in such a way where the outer hips draw in and the inner thighs move away from each other? And then notice where your feet are, because you want, when you switch legs, you want the same distance. So take your back foot where your front foot is. Take your front foot where your back foot was. And you can do it out. You can take your front foot back first and then switch. It's not, the order isn't so important. So again, lift your outer knees to outer hips, especially that front leg. Lift the outer knee to the outer hip, taking that hip back, the left hip then moving back. But at the same time, lengthen the inner thighs. So keep that left hip moving back. Everyone can take that left hip back a little bit more. Lengthen the inner thighs, the inner groins, from the inner knees to the lower abdomen. And then as you compact the outer hips together, spread the inner thighs apart. So the outer hips compact, the inner thighs move apart. Olivia, turn the back foot and thigh. So the whole leg, the back one turns in a little bit more. More, even more, even more. That's it. Yeah, and now your hips are more straight. It doesn't have to be totally straight. So it's about a 30-degree angle instead of out to the side. In the very advanced world, they begin to take it back out again. But I've been in I think, one class where we did that. This helps the hips. All right, walk your back foot to your front foot. Take your hands on your hips, extend the chest, come up. All right, we're going to play this for a little bit, but play with this for a little bit. But first, we're going to do Tadasana. Take a block. We did this, I don't know, last month sometime, I think. Some of you may have been there for it. So take it high in your thigh, as high as it comfortably goes. Don't force anything, don't hurt anything, but it goes high. Make sure your toes are pointing straight. The feet aren't going to come together when there's a block between your legs, and please don't force that. Balance evenly on the feet. I'm not worried. Keep the shoulders over the hips, but I'm not too worried about your arms right now. I'm working on the legs. The flesh of the inner thighs goes back. So use the flesh of the inner thighs to move the block towards the wall behind you. But now what I'm really going for is this idea of you're lifting from the outer knees to the outer hips, compact the hips together. And the outer leg is squeezing the block. Don't use the inner thighs to squeeze the block. I get that the inner thighs are touching. I'm aware of that. But can you use the outer thighs to squeeze the block? And the inner thighs are actually trying to get away from the block. They're not. They're going to stay touching. If they didn't, the block would fall. But it's that, and if you don't get it today, by the way, totally fine. If you have no idea what I'm talking about, what is Jonathan on a tangent for today? Crazy, beginning of the year, what's he doing? That's fine. Do it anyway. And begin to send the instructions to the body. Sometimes it takes a little while for the body to understand the instruction. There are instructions that I got that I truly didn't understand for years later when it began to make sense. So do it anyway, even if you don't understand it. Lift the outer knees to the outer hip, compact the hips together, take the outer thighs, squeeze the block, but take the inner thighs away from the block. And I know the very upper inner thighs and the lower abdomen, they're not touching the block, but spread them apart too, even though the outer body is drawing in, the inner body is drawing out. Are you still balanced evenly on your feet? Does one side have to do more than the other in order to stay evenly balanced on your feet? The answer is yes for me. I have to figure that out. Which side has the awareness, which side doesn't. Now, the reason I'm doing this here, just to be clear, is because I want you to do this in Parsvottanasana. So bend your legs, take hold of the block, place it down. Right foot forward, left leg back. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips, compact the hips together. Lengthen the groins. So the inner knees to the lower abdomen. There's a lengthening. Seek the outer heel down. Even if it doesn't go, seek it down. It's okay if it doesn't touch. Now, as you compact the hips together and as you lengthen the inner groins, compact the hips together, but spread the tops of the thighs away from each other. Compact the hips together, spread the tops of the thighs away from each other, and then observe the effects. If any, maybe nothing for you, that's okay. Now there's also a lengthening of the torso, so lengthen from the pubic bone to the navel, from the navel to the sternum, from the sternum to the collarbone. The energy rolls over your shoulders, take your shoulder blades into the body. And find a continuous lengthening through the side ribs. And then bend the front leg and switch legs. See where your feet are so you get the same stance. I'm noticing I usually bring the back foot forward first, but you can do it either way. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips. Especially that front leg again. So as you draw, especially the left outer knee to the outer hip, take the left hip back. Take the left hip back so your hips become closer to being squared. Lengthen the inner groins. See if you can straighten that front leg, Carla. Whatever is accessible today, that's fine. Lengthen the inner groins. Now, as you compact the hips together, spread the tops of the thighs away from each other. Compact the hips together, that left hip moving back, spread the tops of the thighs away from each other. And yes, the flesh of the inner thighs still moves back. Now extend from your pubic bone to your navel, from your navel to your sternum. That's it, Olivia. From your sternum to your collarbone. The energy rolls over your shoulders. Take your shoulder blades into the body. Bend your front leg. Take your back foot forward, hands on hips. Inhale, come up. Back to Tadasana. Feet together. You can face me. Feet together or hip distance apart. So the block's not there, but you have to imagine the block is still there, right? We did that work. So outer knees to outer hips, compact the hips, lengthen from the inner knees to the lower abdomen. As the outer hips compact, the top of the thighs, the lower abdomen move away from each other. Now you have to keep that. We're going to build on that. Now we're moving to the torso, shoulders over the hips. The front bottom ribs move towards the back body. Some of you have heard this instruction, maybe not everyone. The back bottom ribs move towards the front body. But if we just do that, then we throw the front ribs forward, right? So the back bottom ribs have to move towards the back body, and the back bottom ribs move towards the front body. And now take the back bottom ribs forward and up, and imagine the back bottom ribs are lifting the chest. So it's not, we give the instruction, imagine there's a string on your chest lifted up, not that one. Instead, as the back bottom ribs move in, imagine from the bottom, from underneath, the back bottom ribs are lifting up, and it's that energy that's pushing the chest up. And the whole time, the front bottom ribs move back. Anybody feel the difference of lifting the chest in this way? Now we may as well finish Tadasana. Drop the shoulders down, extend through your arms. But I want you, because we're going to take this action of the ribs into Parsvottanasana. So I want you to study it so that you can bring the experience into Parsvottanasana, side forward. All right, release. Hands on the chair, right foot forward, left leg back. Now get the legs first, okay? We are working on the legs first. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips, especially that front leg. As you draw the right outer knee to the outer hip, take that right hip back, square the hips. Lengthen the inner groins. As you compact the hips together, spread the tops of the thighs apart. This creates more space to extend, from which to extend the torso. So now there's a lengthening through the side ribs. There's the actions I gave the previous pose, extend from the pubic bone to the navel, navel to the sternum, sternum to the collarbone. The energy rolls over the shoulders, take the shoulder blades into the body. What happens for many of us is when we do that, we drop the front bottom ribs down. So take the front bottom ribs towards the back body, take the back bottom ribs towards the front body, and use the back bottom ribs to extend the chest forward. The chest does move forward. The front bottom ribs move towards the back body, and then instead of just pulling the chest forward from the back bottom ribs, can you move into the body and use those back bottom ribs to push the chest forward? Do you feel the difference, Olivia? It's a totally different pose. Keep the back heel descending, even if it doesn't touch. And everybody soften your toes. Now maintain that. Maintain the legs. Compact the hips, spread the thighs. The torso, front bottom ribs back, back bottom ribs in and up, extending the chest forward. Now everybody crawl your hands forward. Just crawl the hands forward on the chair. Don't let the hips come forward with them. That right hip still goes back, but crawl the hands forward and get that extra space in the side ribs and in the armpits. The head should be relatively relaxed. I don't want you to tighten your neck here. And let's switch legs. Bend the front leg and switch legs. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips, especially the front leg. Draw that front outer knee to the outer hip and take this. So it's the left leg, the left outer knee to the outer hip, and take that hip back. That front hip moving back. Lengthen the inner thighs. So lift the outer knees to the outer hips, lengthen the inner thighs, the inner groins, and as you compact the outer hips together, spread the tops of the thighs apart. Now maintain that, don't lose that. Yes, we extend through the side ribs. Yes, we extend pubic bone to navel, navel to sternum, sternum to collarbone. The energy rolls over your shoulders, take your shoulder blades into the body. But now that extra awareness of the torso, take the front bottom ribs towards the back body, back bottom ribs towards the front body, in, but then up. So back, front bottom ribs back bottom ribs in and up, and use the back bottom ribs to help extend the chest forward. As if the back bottom ribs are moving up and pushing the chest forward. Not pulling the chest, but you're pushing the chest. Now maintain all of it. Outer knees to outer hips, compact the hips. Spread the tops of the thighs. Front bottom ribs back, back bottom ribs in and up. Now everybody walk your hands forward on the chair. Don't let that, especially left hip, go forward. The left hip goes back as you walk the hands forward. So you get that length in the side ribs and an opening of the armpits. Remember, open armpits are happy armpits. And yes, I'm imagining there's a room full of people screaming open armpits or happy armpits. It's very difficult with half the people online when we don't get all that interaction. Take your front leg back, spread the legs apart, downward facing dog. Thighs back. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips. Compact the hips together. Now, as you lengthen the groins, even here, the outer hips compact, the tops of the thighs move away, even here. And the flesh of the upper inner thighs moves back. The front bottom ribs move back, the back bottom ribs move in and push the chest forward. Yes, even here, downward facing dog. Relax your head, Leanne. That's it. There you go. Imagine this is your favorite pose ever. Yes, you do it for every pose. When you're in it, it's your favorite pose ever. Keep the thighs pressing back, crawl your hands forward, down facing dog still. And then look up, walk your feet forward. Take your hands on your hips, extend the chest forward. Inhale, come up. Tadasana. All right. Put the chair to the side. Let's get a couple blocks. Take the blocks in front of you. Spread your legs wide. When you come forward, you will adjust the blocks so that they are underneath your shoulders. Okay? It's hard to know exactly where your shoulders will wind up. So they are in range, but you will adjust them so they're underneath the shoulders. Take your hands on your hips. Now, I should have said this at the beginning. I did it myself, but I didn't say it. When your legs are wide, it's hard to know if they are on the same plane. So I always line myself up at the back of the mat. And that way I know the back of the mat is cut evenly. So now I know my feet are on the same plane. Balance evenly on your feet. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips. Compact the hips together. Lengthen the inner knees to the inner groins, to the lower abdomen, the whole inner groins lengthening. And even here, there's a compacting of the hips, but there's a widening of the tops of the thighs, the lower abdomen. Now, front ribs back, back ribs in. We are coming forward, but before we come forward, and it's in Light on Yoga, he goes back first. So front ribs back ribs in and up, as if the back ribs are lifting the chest, and begin to arch the back until your chest is pointing towards the ceiling. Thighs press back the whole time. You have to have your thighs pressing back here, otherwise they'll get thrown forward. Now keep those bottom ribs moving in and up, inhale, and then on your exhalation, come forward and take your hands on the block. Now this does depend on you, how high the blocks are, right? So if you know you can do the pose with lower blocks or the floor, that's fine, but I want your shoulder blades to stay in the body. Straight arms though, we're not going down yet, Leanne. We'll get there, I promise. Soon, maybe. Press the thighs back. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips. Now, similar to Parsvottanasana, there is an extension to the side ribs. There is an extension from your pubic bone to your navel, from your navel to your sternum, from your sternum to your collarbone. The energy rolls over the shoulders. The shoulder blades move into the body. But here too, there's a tendency to drop the front bottom ribs down. So take the front bottom ribs towards the back body and take the back bottom ribs in and towards the chest to extend the chest forward. And yes, if you can keep your shoulder blades in, you can use the lower block. Ultimately, we're on the floor, but for a lot of people that begins to round the back. I don't want your back rounded here. Front bottom ribs back bottom ribs in, pushing the chest forward. Outer knees to outer hips, compact those hips together. Coming out, heel toe your feet together a little bit. Hands on hips, extend the chest forward. Inhale, come up. Take your feet together. All right. We're going to do this a couple different ways. So now everyone go get a chair. And the chair is going to go in front of you. You want to spread your legs again. Make sure your heels are on the same plane. Now, this is a nice version. For those that can make it to the floor coming forward, if you know what I'm talking about. If you don't worry about it. We're going to do that in a second. But first, we're going to have the chair for support. So thighs back, arch your back, front ribs back, back ribs in and up. Inhale, on your exhalation, come forward. And then you'll take your hands, rest them on the chair, and then rest your forehead. Either you can do it onto the chair itself or just onto your forearms. Now, you do want to make sure that your hips are still in line with your heels, that you didn't throw your hips back to get to the chair or throw your hips forward to get to the chair. So you might have to adjust the chair. Now, this is a nice, more restorative version of it. It's a wonderful way to practice, both in terms of just having a restorative pose, and also if the head doesn't make it to the floor. But you still do work the legs. So outer knees to the outer hips, equal weight on your feet first, outer knees to outer hips. Lengthen the inner groins. And without being harsh on yourself, because sometimes we're just a little too harsh on ourselves as we try and command the pose. So without being too harsh on yourself, do take the front bottom ribs towards the back body, and the back bottom ribs gently towards the front body, moving upwards towards the chest. Right, this is definitely a more restorative version of it. So I'm not looking for those harsh actions. No, you're working. Restorative doesn't mean, you know, I'll say it when we come out. Outer knees to outer hips, your left leg too, Joe. That's the one. All right, now everyone, heel toe your feet together a little bit. You can straighten your arms on the chair first, just so you have support. Hands on your hips. Inhale, come up. And coming out, you also move your chest towards the ceiling. Front ribs back, back ribs in and out. And then come to center and take your feet together. You know, so everyone, part of it's just semantics. I get that. So I'll just share the world that I know, where the idea of restorative came to mean doing nothing. And that's not really in my yoga education. It doesn't mean doing nothing. Although some of those, you have the props and everything, they're great. And yes, you do nothing. But if your head is supported, which it was here, that's restorative. It does not mean the rest of the body doesn't work. These are restorative poses. We want the head to be supported. The final version of this is also technically a restorative pose because the head is supported. So some of you cannot get your head down. That's why I showed this. You're going to do the same version again, okay? It's a great version of the pose. It just depends on your groins, on your hamstrings, all of it. For those that do want to take your head down, just watch for a minute. We'll start off here. So we're all going to start off here. And then some of us are going to come here and rest our head on the chair. And then others will we'll come down to here, lengthen ribs in, back ribs in. And then we'll take your hands between your feet, round your back, and take your head to the floor. Now, if you're close, you can take a block and also rest your head on the block. To be clear, it's the top of your head, not your forehead on the block. The very top of your head, or even a hair behind it, not like headstand where we say don't go behind it. So the head can move a little forward, and you're just a little bit on the back part. So that's fine, or that's fine. Or we're going to go back to hands on the chair. Yeah? Everybody understand? Everybody know what you want to do? All right. So wide legs. Thighs back. Lift the outer knees to the outer hips. Lengthen. the inner knees to the lower abdomen. Compact the hips, spread the tops of the thighs. Now hands on hips, arch your back. So front ribs have to go back to soften the diaphragm, but the back ribs go in enough to open the chest. Inhale. Maintain all that. Exhale, come forward. For those that have the chair, rest your hands on the chair. For those that are going to the floor, either hands on blocks, hands on the floor. Front ribs back, back ribs in for everybody. And then if you're now going down to the floor, inhale, exhale, hands between your legs, and rest the top of your head, the crown of your head, or a little behind on the floor, or a lift, a block, a blanket. Just make that block higher. There you go. Good. Now, for those who have the hands on the floor, the hands are between the feet, in line with the shoulders, and the elbows are in line with the shoulders. So hands a little further back, Olivia. Even more if they go back. Okay, good. And then try not to have the elbows go out too far. Elbows in line with the shoulders. Elbows in line with the shoulders. And those who have hands on the floor, push your hands into the floor and lift your shoulders up. Lift the shoulders up. Those with arms on the chair, thighs back, everyone thighs back, outer knees to outer hips. Leanne, take your feet a little closer together. I think if you push your hips higher up, you can get your head down. Is your head touching? I can't tell with the hair. Okay, then just go that hair further apart, but don't take your feet a hair further apart, but don't, not the so wide, because you're just going into your flexibility. So if your arms are on the chair, front ribs back, back ribs in. Now, if your hands are on the floor, push your hands down, shoulders up, take your abdomen now and move it towards the ceiling. And we're all going to come out in a moment. Now, if your hands are on the floor, walk your hands forward and extend the chest forward. Front ribs back, back ribs in. Let everybody heel toe your feet together a little bit. Hands on your hips, extend the chest forward, point your chest towards the ceiling, but take your front ribs back as you do, and take your back ribs in enough as you do. Inhale, and then exhale, come to center, and feet together. Tadasana. Check in with yourself. Well, that all went by pretty quickly. For me anyway, I don't know about you guys. All right, lie back on your mats. Bend your legs. We're doing a twist before our Shavasana. So lie back on your mat with your arms out to the sides like a T. So Olivia, if you need to move away from the wall a little bit to get your arms out to the sides, that's fine. Legs bent, and then bend your legs into your chest. Keep your thighs together. Keep your shoulders down, extend through the arms. Inhale. On your exhalation, keep your thighs together, take your knees to your right elbow, turn your abdomen to the left as you do so. So knees to the right, abdomen, torso to the left. The bottom thigh pushes into the top thigh to keep them together. Take your left outer hip away from your shoulder. Rest with knees to the right now, George. We're twisting. Take your knees to the right elbow, or just to the right side. Towards the floor is fine. It's a gentle twist. And then inhale, come up. Take your feet on the floor, square your hips and square your shoulders. Then bend your legs back into your chest. Inhale, on your exhale, take those knees to the left elbow. Turn your abdomen, torso to the right. Keep extending through the arms as well. The bottom thigh presses into the top thigh to keep the thighs together. And take your right outer hip away from your shoulder. Soft face, soft jaw. And inhale and come up. Place your feet on the floor. Square your hips and square your shoulders. Bend your legs into your chest. Give yourself a little hug. Say something kind to yourself. Offer gratitude for yourself, for being here, for your body taking you through all these actions, even if there were things it didn't do that you wanted it to do. Offer gratitude for what it did do. We had to choose what to focus on. There's another gratitude for yourself. Offer that. Perhaps take a moment to bathe in your own true splendor. The purpose of yoga is to still the fluctuations of the mind so that we can bathe in our own true splendor. Take your hands to the face of your knees. Inhale, let the thighs move away from your torso. Exhale, draw the thighs towards your torso. A few breaths like this. Inhale, legs move away. Exhale, legs draw towards you. Pace of your breath. Then on your next exhalation, take your feet to the floor. Straighten your legs one at a time. Let the legs fall away from each other. Find a comfortable place for your arms and let go. Let go. Complete restoration, the whole body being supported. Surrender your body to the Mother Earth below you. Rest your eyes into your cheekbones. Let your legs completely surrender. No work whatsoever. No holding on whatsoever. Let your arms completely surrender. No holding on whatsoever. A complete letting go. Let the torso surrender. Allow it to be absorbed, held, nurtured by the Mother Earth below you. Allow the skull to surrender. Eyes rest into your cheekbones. Rest the front brain onto the back brain and allow the brain itself become smaller, denser, allowing the brain to move away from the bones of your skull. Facial features completely soft, letting go. Let go everything, hold nothing. Let go everything, hold nothing. Let go. Surrender. Shavasana. Begin to deepen the inhalation and lengthen the exhalation. Wiggle your toes, wiggle your nose. Bend your legs, place your feet on the floor with your knees together, feet apart. Knees together, feet apart. Take your hands onto your abdomen or onto your chest. Let the healing energy of your hands penetrate your body, pierce through your layers, and heal whatever it is you may need healing with today. When you feel ready, extend your right arm past your right ear, roll to the right. If you want to roll to the left, that's fine. Do the opposite. Whichever side brings ease to you in this moment. So roll to the side, rest on your side for a moment. And when you feel ready, take your top hand, place it on the floor in front of your heart. Tuck your chin towards your chest, push to come up chest first, head last. Come up to sitting. So roll to the side first, George, and then push to come up. There you go. Good. Bring your palms together. Draw your eyes back and down as you turn the corners of your lips up, observing your practice. As you re-enter the outer world, take this world, the real world, with you, so that you can do your work in the world from this perspective of kindness, of compassion, of gratitude, of love, of oneness. Let's close our practice by chanting the syllable Om one time together. Deep inhalation. Om. Gently let your eyelids open. Big smile. Namaste. Bow to the divine within you. Thank you, everybody. Thank you.